COVID-19 reaches 10 million cases worldwide, Ontario mixes up their school curriculum, and China initiates a prisoner exchange with Canada. I'm Marco Perry. Welcome to the Perry Platform. It's been a while since we talked about COVID-19, so let's just go over what the world looks like and then we'll get to Canada. So, just recently, we've hit 10 million cases across the globe. And from that, there have been 500,000 deaths. If you do the math there, it works out to be about a 5% kill rate. So, that's pretty high actually. A little bit higher than we were first talking about a couple months before. Experts began by saying, well, it's probably comparable to the flu, which would be sub 1%. Then it went up a little bit. We said maybe it's around 2 to 3%. And now it's ballooning even higher than that. But that is just based on the current data. It's possible that the actual number or the percentage for the fatality rate is a little bit lower because here's the facts of the matter. The deaths are probably not that incorrectly reported. If somebody dies, they're dead. The only issue there would be attributing it properly. If somebody had COVID but they died due to another cause, is it still COVID? That's a question. But the cases though, that is a lot of wiggle room. Sometimes someone can have it and not report it, and that's a major thing. Sometimes the testing is not done correctly or not done enough, and there are probably many cases that are going under the radar, especially when you consider that asymptomatic cases are a major portion of the total case number. Based on that, the top number of the fraction, the amount of deaths, that probably won't change too much. Maybe there's a little bit of variance there, but the bottom number, the 10 million, that has a lot of room to either expand or shrink, depending on what happened with the testing. Maybe we didn't test enough, maybe someone under the radar. I think it's likely though that there are more cases, and if you increase the number of cases, the percentage goes down. That is still left to be seen though. Regardless of the percent though, the raw number is still astronomical. 500,000 people have died because of COVID-19. That's insane. The number is so mind-bogglingly high that's hard to put into perspective. 500,000 people. According to worlddata.org, the deaths from COVID thus far already exceed the people who were killed by homicide in 2017. More people are killed by COVID than people killed by people. And keep in mind too, we're not done yet. COVID is at 500K and we don't know where the finish line is. This number could reach 1 million. It could reach 2 million. Some of that's dependent on us and some is dependent on how the virus plays itself out. It's almost a guarantee that COVID-19 will surpass other things that we consider to be quite deadly, like malaria, which killed over 600,000 people in 2017. COVID is on course to pass that and a plethora of other things. If we put the doom and gloom aside for a second though, we can see that the trends are getting better. They're encouraging. Things seem to have reached a peak before and now they're on the downward trend. The charts are declining almost entirely everywhere. Now, we can look at Canada. We're sitting at about 100,000 cases in total across all provinces from the beginning until now. We have had about 8,500 deaths as a result, and that's kind of shocking. That puts the death rate closer to 8% just based on those numbers. Now it's true, the same thing I said before about how the total cases could be wrong. It could actually be far higher, and that would bring down the percentage, but we don't know that yet. Now, based on province to province, British Columbia currently sits at 159 active cases. They only get about 20 to 30 new cases every day, so they're doing quite well. Alberta has 520 active cases, so multiple times more than BC, but it looks like they're only getting 30 to 60 new cases per day, which isn't the worst. Saskatchewan has only 103 active cases. They're getting below 10 new ones per day, so they're in good shape. Manitoba, on the other hand, only has 11 active cases. They usually add 1 case per day. That's amazing. Ontario now, on the flip side, has 1,892 cases, and they add 160 to 200 new ones per day. That's still rather large. Quebec, this is a doozy. Nearly 26,000 active cases. They're only adding 50 to 150 cases per day. There's quite the variance there. So that number should taper off. They're not adding a dramatic amount. Ontario is actually adding more per day, but Quebec has more cases though. That's interesting because having more cases means there's more people with the virus that can spread it. I could reasonably expect the number of new cases per day to go up if that's not handled correctly. And as we can see, they haven't been handling it the best thus far. New Brunswick only has 5 active cases. Most days they have no new ones. Nova Scotia sits at 0. PEI and Newfoundland and the territories also have none. Clearly, some parts of Canada are way safer than others, but COVID still exists though everywhere. We shouldn't forget that. What should you be doing right now to limit your exposure and to bring us closer to a world where COVID doesn't exist anymore? The first thing that we should all be doing is wearing a mask, especially when you're going out into public. A lot of people are having issues with this and it just baffles me. Think about it from a cost/benefit analysis. So what's the cost? You put on a mask, it's uncomfortable, maybe it makes it harder for you to breathe, but at the end of the day, the costs are not that great. I can assure you on that. What are the benefits? Research does show that having a mask on cuts down the amount of viral load that you spread by talking and coughing. Now, some people say, I don't have COVID. Why should I wear a mask? Well, there's something called asymptomatic cases, which are still contagious. You might not be showing any symptoms, but you might still have COVID. And although if you're asymptomatic, supposedly the odds of you passing it on are lower than somebody who is showing signs, you can still pass it on. Be extra careful and just put on the mask because you might save somebody's life. The benefit is tremendous there, and the cost is very minor. I'm not too sure why it's even a debate. We can't even agree on the basics of keeping each other safe. That's crazy to me. From your own perspective, even if you were somebody who was selfish, I assume you would want others to wear a mask because it protects you. It's actually in your best interest to encourage mask wearing, and you can do that by putting on an example. By wearing a mask for yourself, I assume that many people have loved ones who are vulnerable to the disease, either because of age or having a pre-existing condition, and to be trying to start an argument, trying to convince people that they shouldn't wear a mask is crazy. Now, I do know that is what the Canadian health officials were saying before. They were massively wrong with that. They should have never said it in the first place. They should have came forward and said, we don't know. So I do understand people losing faith in the system because they misled you before. Now they're flipping the script. You don't know what's right or wrong, but I am telling you, the science is clear. Wearing a mask does help, and you should do it. The officials changed their tune, and they're telling you to do so now because there's evidence that proves it is helpful. So, just do your part. The second thing that everyone should be keeping in mind, especially as many provinces move towards a reopening/going back to normal phase, is that it doesn't apply across the board to everybody. If you are an individual who is more susceptible because you have a condition, or you're just old, or you're weaker, because other people are going out, that doesn't mean that you should as well. You have to be aware of your individual circumstances and make the best decision for you. Freedom is coming back, and with that comes responsibility. You have to make the best decisions, and even if you're not vulnerable, but if you are coughing, or you seem to have a symptom, make sure you stay home. Because your friends are going out, and you want to have fun, you're going to go out too with these symptoms. That's idiotic. You have to be aware of this right now. Responsibility is a major key to us moving forward successfully. If you are weak, stay home. If you are sick, stay home. If you are healthy and you're not vulnerable, then yeah, follow the rules of reopening as best as you can. Wear a mask and you should be fine. But keep in mind though, COVID still exists and anything is possible. That's a risk that you're taking, so be aware of it. The final thing that we should all be doing is limiting our exposure to groups if we deem them to be unnecessary. Because in a group setting, that is where the virus has the best odds of spreading dramatically. Because now it's not just going to one person, it can go to 10, 20, 30 people right away. And from there, the growth is exponential. So, if you can do something in a smaller group, do that. If you can divide the amount of time you're going out with your friends so you're going in cells of 2 or 3 instead of 20, then that might be the best thing to do. Avoid going to places like parks that you know are going to be packed or beaches. And if you are trying to protest, really think about if it's needed right now. Being at a protest or being at a beach or doing whatever, the virus doesn't care what your morals are. It doesn't care what the reason for gathering is. It only cares that you are there. And it is really possible that we can bring about a second wave if we are not smart. The experts aren't really condemning or supporting these kind of things here, but just know the virus does not discriminate. If you are in a group setting, even with a mask, you can still get COVID, and you can still be the reason why it spreads to somebody else. Think about that before you make a decision. The end game right now is really just to minimize the casualties until a vaccine comes about. That might be 1 year away, so what we're trying to do is to get the amount of deaths to be as small as possible. We're not going to return to life as it once was before, because that will inherently come with more casualties. Here, we are making a balance. We're trying to get some semblance of a life back while still maintaining that we know the virus is dangerous and it can kill people. So we need to find a middle ground there. And that's what you can see with the provinces slowly reopening. People are going back out, they're going back to work, but we're being extra careful. Now, the secondary goal, as I alluded to before, is avoiding a second wave, because that could be disastrous, and it's made possible by our actions. Right now, the cases are going down. If we aren't careful, and if we don't continue to act in ways to curb the virus, it will come back. It's like a forest fire. Right now we have it contained for the most part, but if extra twigs and branches come into the picture, it can follow that path and create a bigger fire than was there previously. It's something to keep in mind. COVID's not gone. That's the bottom line here. We have to continue to act responsibly to make sure people are not dying needlessly. Now, let's move on. Ontario is set to introduce coding and personal finance into school curriculum. Starting in grade 1, students will now be exposed to finance and computer coding. This is amazing. Really, this is a great step and probably one of the biggest wins for education that we've had in a long time. If done properly, it sets our kids up with valuable life skills that they will need in the future, in a future that's ever-changing and becoming more technology-based. Coding is immensely in demand right now. Graduating in this field is a path to a decent lifestyle, almost guaranteed. If you can code, people will want you. Learning about it from a young age is a great benefit. Now, some critics may say, well, the current demand in the job market for those skills won't sustain if everybody goes into coding. And that's true. If all of these grade 1 kids decide, hey, let's go into coding now, it will be a problem. Job scarcity will occur. But the reality is not everyone will go into coding. We all take social studies classes in elementary school, but we aren't all social science majors. The kids who enjoy it will pursue it, and the ones who don't like it will at least have been given the chance at being exposed to it. And perhaps they'll pick something up, maybe 1 or 2 coding tricks that they can use in the future that will help them get a job. Personal finance is less about job skills, but more so about skills to benefit you. You would be surprised by just how bad people can be with money, and further, how little the average Canadian knows about personal finance, from jamming themselves with credit card debt that they can't pay off because of the interest, to not budgeting properly, to knowing nothing about investment options, how to save for retirement, to just having no savings at all. It's a real issue, and the benefits here could be just insane. They could help the individual better plan and become more fiscally responsible. The economy could do better, more investing, spending wisely, and the government would benefit too by having to dish out less in social services because people know how to take care of themselves now. Let's not play around either. If we were in grade 1, we would want to have been taught these kind of things because we recognize the value here. I can't understand anybody who is criticizing this change. Is it because you didn't get it, so therefore nobody else should? This is immensely valuable, and it's going to help the next generation of Canadians. It's amazing. Now, the NDP party, which is the opposition in Ontario, were angered by this move. Surprising. They say it's irresponsible to change curriculum during a pandemic. That's the first point they made. And my response is, okay, maybe. I don't really buy into that though, at least not fully. Teachers can learn the skills and the material without increasing their risk, without making the pandemic worse. Everything you need would be online, I assume. Teaching has gone virtual for the time being. I actually don't even know what the point is they're trying to make. They didn't really explain it fully. Why exactly is releasing this change during a pandemic irresponsible? Why would that be? People are just using these buzzwords now to try and get one over the opposition. Oh, during a pandemic, that's irresponsible. Well, why though? Can you elaborate? I don't see this change making the pandemic worse. I don't see it exposing the teachers to additional risk or the students. It seems like everything they need is going to be provided to them virtually. Maybe emotionally, people are too occupied with the pandemic to learn something new. They're too focused on things like existential dread. But even that to me seems to be a weak point. We've been in the pandemic for a long time now. Thinking about the future seems to be irresponsible, actually. Now, they also say the Minister of Education didn't really consult educators or parents about the new curriculum. Well, first of all, I doubt any parent is going to be opposed to this change. Teachers, I can see that though. But look what they're doing here. By lumping in the parents and the teachers, they are trying to create a cascading effect where they want to put forward that the teachers and the parents are going to be angry about it. In reality though, I think it will just be the teachers. Then they try to give a reason why parents would be mad, but it's a bogus reason, and we'll get to that in a second. First though, they continue their point by saying that it will be an additional burden for the teachers. Okay, so what? Of course it's a burden. That's a new job skill. Everything is a burden when you're learning something new. It's something that you have to do that you didn't have to do previously. The teachers need to learn the equivalent of elementary school coding and personal finance. They won't be software developers or Warren Buffett, but some basics I assume they can handle, especially when you consider it's material for kids. This is a positive change for the students, and fighting it because it's additional work for the teachers is odd. That is their job. We don't want to reduce the quality of our education system because the teachers are unwilling or unable to learn the new content. The bottom line is that we need coding and personal finance to be in the curriculum. It's been long overdue. But you can see the NDP here has an interest. They seem to be backing somebody up. And who is it? The teachers. And further, the unions. And I don't like that. This is a great change, but they can't even be on the same page about it. They're too worried about workloads and irresponsibility, but the points just are not strong. Then they get to their final argument, which is that parents were already struggling to help their kids with their homework. And now, what's going to happen? We're going to be introducing coding and personal finance. Those are hard concepts. Once again, my response is okay. And, of course, it will be harder for the parents because these are more complicated things, but they are valuable. This is highly irrelevant. Would a parent really sabotage their kid's ability to learn valuable skills because they won't be able to help them with their homework anymore? Who cares about that? Really, it's not an issue. There are free resources online to help the kid learn. There is YouTube, and if you really want to as a parent, you could pick up some of these skills yourself. I assume it's not too crazy. It's an introduction class for grade 1 to 8 students there. And if you have money, you can pay a tutor. There are many ways out of this. These are such weak points that I don't even know why I'm addressing them. I guess maybe I'm silly for thinking that political parties could overcome their differences and unite around something that's obviously good. How is this something that we are criticizing? It's an amazing thing. The idea itself is great. Now, I can understand criticism about the implementation because there are some issues there. For example, my biggest concern is with the teachers themselves. As we're hearing here, it's going to be a burden. They may be unwilling to do so. It's an additional workload. Well, the plain truth is some teachers will definitely struggle with learning the new curriculum. Not all teachers are the same. Some are really old, they're close to retirement, and they don't care anymore. Now, some are really old and they still care and they will try their best. Some are young and they don't care. Some are young who will try. It's a mixed bag here, but there are teachers who will not take to this. We know that. We just don't know the percentage of it. From grades 1 to 8, you usually only have one teacher who just teaches everything. So it's not like you can go to the coding teacher and the personal finance teacher like in high school. It's different. One guy handles the whole class. And if one class has an incompetent teacher and another has someone who is good, that's going to be a massive discrepancy that will have tremendous effects on the students' outcomes. Having a good teacher who understands the curriculum and can explain to you better is going to obviously be better for the students. And having a teacher who knows nothing, who's not willing to try, who is mad about the change, They can ruin your future, quite literally. I'm thinking there might need to be another way forward here, because even aside from the unwillingness, a teacher could really want to learn, but maybe they just can't, for one reason or another. For the first couple years until the teachers pick it up and they get used to it, maybe we have to bring in some specialists or volunteers from the industry. I imagine it wouldn't be too complicated to get some personal finance or coding people to just create a web series that they can give to the classrooms, and it'll be the same video played again every year. And the teachers who are struggling can probably learn from the videos. Once again, I assume it's not going to be too complicated. It's grade 1 to grade 8 coding and personal finance. Especially personal finance, just being an adult, you've probably been exposed to a lot of things there that you already know now. So overall, I do think it's quite doable, but maybe we need to call in some industry help to get this done effectively right from the get-go. Having the teachers take over from year 1 right away, there'll probably be some hiccups there. Now, I love teachers, but differences in quality could be a real issue, and they could balloon here, really. Having a teacher who is not good at coding, not good at finance versus one who is, yeah, it's a pretty big issue. And it's always been an issue, regardless of subject. And that's one of the things here that we have to find a way to tackle. Regardless, though, I'm very happy about this change, and I do think it's going to empower our future generation of students to just be more effective at life. To know more about how to handle your money is liberating. It's powerful. To learn about an in-demand skill set that can get you a good job, that's great. These changes are long overdue, and I'm just happy that they're coming in now. These kids don't know what they're about to get. We didn't have that, and I'm glad the new generation is going to have the opportunity. Now, moving on to our final story involving our old friend, China. They are trying to organize a hostage exchange with us. China really has become quite the international villain, doing some James Bond type adversary things here. The Huawei drama between us and them continues to spiral, and it's led us here now. So in case you've been out of the loop, we, Canada, currently have the Huawei CFO detained, and she is on path to be extradited to America to face charges of bank and wire fraud. This happened a couple years ago, so America said, Canada, this lady is residing in your country. We want you to extradite her because there are some charges that we want to apply. And we have a treaty with America that says we have to comply. So there really wasn't a choice there. There was a potential criminal that was set to be tried. And so we went through the process. We had the courts review the case, and it seemed like it was legitimate. She was okay to be extradited. Now, China from the very beginning was pissed off. They administered a tremendous amount of pressure on us to get us to crack. First of all, they were hitting us in terms of the economy. They were cracking down on our exports there. Things from pork to soybeans, they were trying to cripple our industry, and it was an obvious attempt to get us to back off. The timing was far more than just convenient. It was planned out. They were saying, hey, if you extradite our CFO, because Huawei is almost like a state corporation there. China has heavy influence in it. It's not a free enterprise. So they're saying, you want to play with us? Well, we're going to hurt you. And they did hurt us, but I will give Trudeau credit. He held strong here and he continued the process. Then China, they got more creative. They want her back, and they started to think, well, if she goes to America, it's likely she will be sent to prison. We don't want that. So what do? Let's copy the scenario. China grabbed 2 Canadians and they put them in jail. And now they're trying to use them for ransom. They're basically hostages at this point. China says, hey, we'll give you both of them back if you return Meng, the Huawei CFO. And they are blatant about that. It's crazy. So who are these people that China has arbitrarily arrested? The first Canadian is named Michael Spavor. He's worked with North Korea in the past to promote investment and tourism, and he was traveling in China. In 2018, China locked him up. Now, for what? Supposedly he was endangering state security. And this happened shortly after Meng was arrested. How convenient. This is just so obviously an attempt to get back at us. Taking a high-ranking Canadian individual who is clearly just there trying to get through and do business and whatnot. And there really isn't much evidence here. We haven't seen any evidence of whatnot. There wasn't a fair trial. All that happened was China said, hey, state emergency. He is endangering our privacy. We're locking him up. And I will jog your memory a little bit too. There was also another Canadian back at the beginning of the Huawei issue who was already given a charge for drug smuggling. He actually did commit a crime and he was awaiting his sentence or whatever. So China actually went back right after the Huawei thing and they retried him and they made the sentence worse. They were going to put him to death. I'm not too sure what actually happened there, but as you can see, they're putting pressure. It's very blatant here. They're not playing around. So, who is the other Canadian? His name is also Michael, and his last name is Kovrig. He's a former diplomat, and same situation here, endangering national security. Basically calling them spies. How convenient. Now, reports indicate that even aside from the questionable arrests that were made, China has kept them in inhumane conditions that border torture. For example, they leave the lights on in their cell 24/7 to disturb their sleep and to make sure that they can't get any shut-eye. Basically making you go crazy. To never have darkness, that's insane. The lights are always on. You lose track of time. You start to lose your mind a little bit. And they're interrogated for up to 8 hours per day. And when the Canadian embassy wants to go visit him, or Canadian officials want to go see him, the Chinese officials say no. I believe we've only seen him, or seen them, 3 times in the past year, or something like that. Now, Trudeau has come forward and said the arrests are arbitrary. We don't see any evidence here. None's been provided to us to justify what happened here. It's not like the drug dealer. These two are very separate, and we don't get what's going on. Well, we do get it. It's very obvious hostage taking. Now, we can complain and say, oh, it's unfair, it's unjust, but keep in mind, China does not operate on the same standard of justice as we do. They're playing to the beat of their own drum. These two Canadians are very obviously becoming bargaining chips here. China is willing to make a deal to exchange Meng for the two Michaels. And what baffles me is that critics are putting pressure on Trudeau to take the offer. That is beyond stupid. I don't know how you can be a politician or a high-ranking lawyer and all these people who are coming forward and saying to do it. How asinine. Let me pose a simple question. What happens the next time we have an issue with China? Or even when China has an issue with us? If you show them that taking a hostage and bargaining with us like terrorists works, they will do it again. How can any Canadian feel comfortable passing through China or going to China when we are going to put a mark on their back now, saying kidnap me? Because China can use them to bend us. They will crush you using whatever means necessary. They've proven that. For Trudeau to give in to this is a terrible decision, and I'm glad he hasn't, despite the pressure. He's been holding on pretty strong, I would say. He's doing a good job. This really is a terrible position to be in because these two Canadians here are being unjustly tortured and kept away from their family and loved ones. We cannot let them bully us though. China will do it again and again and again. These politicians have no brains, and it actually makes me wonder if maybe they're being paid off or something, or they have a special tie here. Because for a Canadian to say, yeah, give in to China, let them bully us like that, I can't buy it. It's just crazy talk. Now, the real answer here involves America. We are really in this mess because we are helping them. They wanted Meng. We are extraditing her based on their request. We are also facing the backlash because of them. It really is America's request that got us in the hot water. America can't ask us for a favor and shy away while China kicks us to the ground. And Trudeau has to make that clear. He should come forward and say, Trump, what the hell are you doing? You got us into a mess right now and we are allies. We're helping you out, so help us now. We need them to come forward and start applying pressure. They have to step in and use their influence and their economic might. Canada alone cannot do anything. We are a fraction the size of China. China is massive and they will laugh at our economic retaliations. They won't do anything. America and Canada together, though, that can do some damage there. This is absolute nonsense coming from China. They're committing illicit practices to try and force our hand here. It's not acceptable. All of our allies need to band together and cripple their economy. China is a massive exporter. This is what their economy is based on. If you have nobody to sell things to, it's game over. The developed world has to band together here and take a stand. We can't continue to let them have their way. You might say, oh, they're starting out small. Just 2 Canadian hostages, but what happens when it's the next country? Or more people? Or they keep doing it? It will happen if they are not halted. America has been far too silent on this, and it's unacceptable. I get it. They have their own issues, but this here is important. It's an international act of terrorism, basically. It can't be allowed to go on. We need those Canadians back, and China has to learn how to operate properly in this world. This antic here is just not acceptable. And if we don't do anything, if we give in to it, we enable them. It's like a child acting out. If you let them go crazy, they will continue to do so because they know by going crazy, they will get what they want. That cannot happen. If Trudeau ever listens to these critics, who are foolish, I will add, who are saying to give in to the demands, I will be speechless. I'll be so ashamed, and I don't know where we'll go from here because China will just bully us again in the future, and it'll be harder and harder to fight back. The Globe and Mail writes that China is behaving like a terrorist organization that kidnaps innocents in order to force a prisoner exchange. That is exactly right. That is what is happening here. We would all be idiots to play into that game. We need to call our allies now and show our combined force. If nobody comes to our aid, what good is allyship? This will happen again. Another country maybe, Australia, somewhere in Europe, maybe even to America. A country will anger China, or China will be mad at them for whatever reason, and China will resort to illicit tactics to bend them over. Together, we are strong. Individually, we are weak. China is massive here. Only America can go 1v1 on them. Every other country has to band together to get something done. Now, to put the situation in other words, China has literally aimed a gun at these Canadians and they're telling us to act fast or something might happen. And China's always like that. Something might happen. They're never direct. They're always hinting at something and playing this game. But we have to see through that. It's so despicable. I can't say it enough. We need our allies right now. To be screwed over because maybe they're too afraid or too busy to help us will make me seriously question how we have to move forward in this world. Now, on another related point, I've seen something that has annoyed me. There are people who are now calling for the defunding of the military. How narrow-minded and closed-viewed do you have to be of just world events to think that's a good idea, or even of history? To be so ignorant to think that we don't need the military or that we can weaken it at a time like this just spells out how clueless these people are who are running this notion. Do they want to make it easier for the likes of China and Russia to stomp us? Especially in the case of America. Right now, I would say they're pretty equivalent with China. And you want to defund them? Defund their military? The police thing is separate. I talked about that last week. There are separate calls to defund the military. So you want to make America weaker and give the likes of China and Russia the upper hand. Do you really want to open the gates to authoritarian terror? To reviving some of the horrors of the past 100 years with communism and Marxist-like governments trying to take over the world? Is that something we want to do? I think any logical person would say no, but unfortunately, the illogical ones are causing the most amount of noise in this regard. America is still the dominant world power. If you think things are bad with them in charge, just imagine what would happen with China at the helm, or with Russia at the helm. Need I remind you, China has revived real concentration camps and they're putting religious minorities into them. Need I remind you that China has committed acts of grievous violations against their own citizens, that China does not hold these same social justice pillars that you do. And the same goes with Russia. I never see these advocates talking about these kind of countries. I never see like the feminists talking about the just massive violations of women's rights that happen in places in the Middle East. I never see it. I never see them talking about something going on with the Chinese government oppressing certain minorities there. Some of them do, but it's not taking the spotlight. And it has to be talked about more because we have to put into context what's going on here. I believe fundamentally at the root of all this confusion is just a lack of understanding for how rare what we have here really is. To have a functioning society that is democratic for the most part, and things are good for most people for the most part, of course there are injustices here and there that have to be ironed out. This has never happened before throughout all of human history. You can look back. We're literally the 0.1% of the population that's enjoying a thriving community. But you can even look at the world today. It's still not common. Across the world, there are many places, many countries that are borderline authoritarian hells. North Korea, Russia, The list is pretty endless here, especially when you factor in all of the previous countries of past times and past generations to not appreciate what we have here and to not protect it. Of course, we have to improve it, but there are ways to go about that are productive and ways to go about it that empower other countries to take a more dominant position in the world. And at the same time, there's an underestimation as to what exactly certain regimes are up to. Russia and China, I will reference again. And I keep repeating it because it has to be known. These countries aren't countries that you want at the top of the world. Don't be mistaken either. It is not the people. It's the government and the small number of elites who are running the show. And we have to find ways to empower the people, as I said before. We can't just go into these countries and force about change because it won't be well received. The people have to be fed up with the current way the government's operating, and they have to bring about a change themselves, and we have to empower that. If you think that a country like China is on the same playing field as a country like America, I don't know what to tell you. They're so vastly different, and the outcomes that they will bring about into the world, if given the chance to, are not identical. America has had that power, and they've done things that are terrible. We know that. It's very true. It's clear. It's obvious. But at the same time, they've done things that are amazing. We see what they would do if given the chance because they have had the chance and they've done it. If you switch their spots and put China in that position, you can only begin to imagine the horrors that would have transpired from that, from what they would bring about into the world. I'm talking strictly about the government and what the government would do. There's no comparison here. A place like Hong Kong, who was rebelling for democracy and a change in the government, is something that had to have been supported more strongly. Because that fire was something that could have ignited the rest of the Chinese populace to take a stand, to bring about the change that everyone needs to see. It's all about the government. Having a government with an oppressive agenda, that is a danger for everyone. I encourage people to brush up on some good literature to really see how bad things could get. 1984, Brave New World, dystopian novels like that, Animal Farm, because they're not too far removed from the picture of possibility. They could happen. And I firmly believe there are actors in the world who would be okay with bringing that about if they were the ones in charge. We are in a peculiar time period, facing regimes that are as sinister as China and Russia, all the while they are so strong that they could end the world with nuclear warfare. How do we navigate that? How do we bring about a change when going to war in 2020 could literally end the human race forever? One flip of the button, if something goes wrong, and the nukes land in a country who can retaliate, and there's this nuclear fallout everywhere. This is a reality. It's something that has to be talked about more, but it's not being. We say we are a globalized country, but we don't have a global worldview. It's a problem. We're not taking into account some of the issues around the world that could be disastrous for everyone. Only time will tell how things will play out, but I can assure you this, the longer we sleep on it, the worse it will become. We needed to be having these conversations yesterday, last week, last month, last year, last decade, but the next best time to talk about them is now. We have to make it happen. Otherwise, I do fear for the consequences of inaction. So, that now brings me to the end of our conversation for today. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to leave a review and share. They'll help us grow. And you can find me online at perryplatform.org and social media at perryplatform. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.